What's up, guys? Digirex here, and today I'm coming at you with another Destiny 2 tier list. Kind of just doing some tier lists and some other random videos before Season of Opulence comes out because the content is a little bit dry for Destiny right now. I got a few ideas for videos. This video is just going to be looking at a tier list for DLCs throughout Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. So basically, we got all the DLCs down here, and this includes stuff from the Season Pass, and we were doing this before Season of Opulence, just to see how the DLCs have stacked up so far before Opulence. We're going to see where Opulence lies. I have pretty high hopes for Opulence, especially because they are promising a new raid, which is absolutely always welcomed. So here we have Trash, C tier, B tier, A tier, S tier. I kept it not too many tiers for this. Trash. We could do trash / F tier. We're gonna skip E tier, D tier. Goes right to F. Because I feel like there's no DLCs that would even sit between C and F tier. It just goes right from C to F. There's not really any in between that. Not gonna lie. There's no DLCs that are like mediocre to horrible. It's either they are mediocre or they are horrible. So that's why we got a little break in the tiers here. Basically, we're just going to move left to right. This is the order. It's a random order. If you guys missed my last Destiny 2 tier list video, I ranked all of the Destiny 2 exotics, which was fun. Lots of exotics, lots of rankings. I believe that video was like 20 minutes long or something like that. So I'm going to do it for the DLC, starting with the Black Armory. The Black Armory was pretty damn good, in my opinion. For the first kind of expansion, I don't know where I'm going to put it. I'm just going to place it there for now. Let me explain myself. It's the first kind of expansion with this new Season Pass system. The forges were cool. The exotics were cool. I really liked Jotun. I really liked the sniper. The raid exotic was also pretty cool. The raid itself was awesome, introduced mechanics with vehicles that we have not yet seen in a raid. Very fun raid, had tanks, had sparrows, lots of cool stuff came from this DLC. The weapons from the forges were also really cool, very sought after. Hammerhead was pretty good, Blast Furnace is really good. Of course, I said Jotun, which is an exotic. Overall, this DLC was pretty good. Some things holding it back. No real addition to PvP, which it wasn't really meant to do that. So it really didn't add anything to PvP, didn't really change the meta too much besides adding new guns, which was welcome. It didn't really change what kind of weapons were in the meta, but it did welcome some new guns, which was really cool. Personally, the more I'm talking about this, the more I think it belongs in a solid B tier, just because it obviously some of these don't have as much content as the others. Like Forsaken and Taken King have a lot more content than something like this. So I'm going to try to rate it off the quality of its content. The forges are fun after a while, except the frames are pretty grindy, and the forges themselves can even get really grindy, which I guess is kind of the point. But it's kind of just like a wave defense sort of thing. They should have switched it up with some of the forges, made different forges, different kind of activities. Then that would probably put it at an A tier, but for now I'm going to put it at a B tier. Raid was really fun, good loot. The only problem was you also couldn't play it right off the bat because people's power levels were too low, unfortunately. So that fucking sucks that you can't play the DLC right off the bat. So that's going to pull it down to a B tier. Alright, so what do we got here? The Dark Below, Destiny 1. It's definitely not trash tier. The raid, I really like Crota. Crota is a lot of fun. I don't know if Scourge of the Past or Crota is the better raid. Most of me wants to say Scourge of the Past. I'm going to try to not let nostalgia get in the way of this, because I am pretty nostalgic over Crota. I got a lot of good guns in that raid. Raid loot, I forgot to mention raid loot in this. Pretty lackluster. Armor wasn't great. Raid loot in this was nice. This was some good ass raid loot. You got Deathslinger's Mantle. It's pretty awesome. You got the old Whisper of the Worm, the Black Hammer, which was pretty damn awesome. Lots of good stuff came from this raid. although it didn't really have too much content besides that. Had a little more story. We don't really care about story too much. Had Necrochasm, another pretty pointless exotic. I think it belongs in B tier with Black Armory. I think Black Armory and the Dark Below are sort of on the same mid-tier level. It's pretty good. Didn't add too much content, but like I said, both the raids are fun. This didn't really add too much more, but Crota is a really damn good raid. And of course, this is more of a raid layer, so it's a little bit shorter, less encounters, stuff like that. And then when this was rehashed in Age of Triumph, the challenges were really good for it, so I'm going to put it at B tier. Warmind, I'm going to put at a C tier. My reasoning is that Escalation Protocol is kind of just another wave defense sort of thing. It was fun, and the loot was good for it, and of course some of those weapons are still used today, but it had the unfortunate, I don't know, disadvantage of being in year 1 of Destiny 2, which was probably the worst time in Destiny because there's no random rolls, so the loot was kind of just trash. The raid loot, still pretty trash. The raid itself, I feel like the final encounters are pretty good, but besides that, it's mostly just jumping puzzles and killing ads that aren't very challenging. Decent raid, it was pretty hard. I don't really dig the Leviathan raids either, but that's just something that comes with the disadvantage of being in year 1 of Destiny 2. Escalation Protocol loot's the best thing that can come from this, and some of the Mars stuff, like the Polaris Lance is a pretty cool exotic sleeper simulant it brought back. It also brought Mars into the solar system for Destiny 2 with a whole kind of new story. Also brought new strikes. Of course, this brought new strikes too, so that's pretty much what keeps it on B tier with Black Armor. Forgot to mention the strikes that it came with. Warmind, pretty cool strikes. I like the Knocker strike. Very fun. I like how they rehashed Mars with the Frozen Thrall and the ice itself. So, I mean, it's not trash. It's not the absolute worst, but it is definitely worse than Black Armory or the Dark Below. Taken King. I'm going to move this all the way to S tier. Taken King is absolutely a fantastic DLC. The story was really good. Oryx is coming to avenge Crota. We like that. All the loot was good. It totally rehashed all the game's broken systems from year 1. It made it super nice leveling system, similar to the leveling system we had today. Most of the currencies were redone. We had legendary marks, added a ton of new iconic exotics, stuff like the Zalo Supercell, really cool exotics like that. It added, of course, Stormcaller, it added Sunbreaker and Night Stalker, so we got 3 new awesome, dope subclasses. It added an awesome raid. Gotta love King's Fall. I know not everybody loves King's Fall, but to me, this is the best final boss fight we have had in a raid ever. I love the Oryx fight, just because, not totally because of the mechanics either. There are other good final boss fight mechanics like Axis and stuff like that. And even Callus has some pretty good boss fight mechanics. But this boss was just on such a massive scale that we have not really seen from Destiny anywhere else. Oryx was just huge, and it made it feel like an epic battle, because the last time we saw Oryx, he kind of puffed away, and it looked like Oryx was taking himself at the end of the story. And I like that the raid also carried into the story. You also have the Golgoroth encounter, which in my opinion is one of the other greatest encounters in Destiny raid history. The Golgoroth encounter is absolutely amazing. The different strats people came up with and the different ways people conquered it. Like I said, new loot, new strikes, totally rehashed the game systems, new subclasses, awesome story, awesome raid. The raid loot, meh, is pretty good. It was a little bit lackluster. I say this is the first kind of raid we got some more lackluster loot, but the Defiance of Yasmin was pretty awesome. Some of the armor sets were pretty cool. The Warlock armor set being probably the coolest. And it also introduced jumping puzzles. The raid introduced, like, this is the first time a raid really had jumping puzzles, which is used all the time in Destiny now. You gotta love the jumping puzzles, but this is the first time they did it. And it was also one of the best jumping puzzles even to this day with the floating ships and stuff like that. So King's Fall is honestly just it's a masterpiece of a raid, and I absolutely love it. And of course, all the new subclasses, new systems, new loot. It is definitely an S tier DLC. Season of the Drifter, the season we are in now, I gotta put it down here at C tier, to be honest with you guys. I don't think it's as good as Black Armory. I like Gambit, but it does get old after a while grinding it. The pinnacle weapons in Season of the Drifter were definitely better than Black Armory, in my opinion. Recluse is really fun, and the Scout Rifle can be pretty cool. 21% Delirium, also, it's pretty cool. For Black Armory didn't have the best pinnacle weapons, in my opinion. But it's got to go down here, just because most of it, the whole gameplay loop is kind of switching between Gambit and the Reckoning, which, Reckoning, another wave-based thing, although it does get pretty cool when you go into Tier 2 and Tier 3 with the whole bridge fight, and then fighting the Shades of Oryx. All that fun stuff is good. I do like the armor sets. The armor sets are fun. I wish they would do more of that for, like, raids and stuff like that. Like, if you have an entire raid set on, you get bonuses for the raid, or if you have a whole strike set on, you get bonuses for a certain strike. Stuff like that would be pretty cool. They started that here, which was pretty good, but they did it for Gambit. This didn't really change PvP at all either. Didn't really have a raid either, which is kind of unfortunate. Did have some good cutscenes with the exotic lore. Unfortunately, 2 out of 3 exotics in this DLC are not new. Outbreak Perfected is not new. Thorn is not new. Aeroblast is new and is a good welcome addition to the game, in my opinion. So the exotics, not so nice. So it's going to sit down here with Warmind. I'm pretty sure, I mean, in my opinion, these are kind of on the same level. This added strikes, this added the Reckoning, Escalation Protocol, Reckoning. This added kind of a raid, which kind of goes Gambit Prime. At least it did something for more PvE activities. This was decent. I wish they'd do more new exotics, but it just be like that. So we have House of Wolves. This one is really hard for me because this came with some cool exotics such as Queenbreaker's Bro, Lord of Wolves, Drake's Promise. Ones that have come back in Destiny 2. Queenbreaker's Bow and Lord of Wolves are both very welcome additions. Drake's Promise was the most useless exotic pretty much in the history of Destiny. So, the reason I'm debating between A and B tier, it did not bring a raid. Unfortunately, like Season of Drifter, did not bring a raid. But it brought Trials of Osiris, which was one of the best activities in Destiny for a while. In Destiny 1 and in Destiny 2, this is what boosted the Twitch numbers up. This is what started to create a competitive Destiny environment. And I know Destiny will never be competitive. It's just not that type of game. But this was the closest people could really get. And it was the first kind of idea that you could have a competitive Destiny scene. By the end, Trials got a little bit worn out in Destiny 1. But Destiny 2 made it better with some objective play and stuff like that. This also had Prison of Elders, which was fun at the time. I don't think that activity would really hold up in the current climate of Destiny 2. Didn't have too much replayability. Had some pretty cool loot, airplane phase, stuff like that. And then Prison of Elders was, of course, rehashed in the April update during Taken King time. Yeah, I'm really debating, because Trials of Osiris would put it up here. If it had a raid, it would definitely be A tier. Prison of Elders makes it sort of B tier, in my opinion. Just because it wasn't the greatest. Although it did add, as you see here, stuff like Celestial Nighthawk, which is pretty damn cool. This is where Thorn became meta also. Did change a lot of PvP for a while, even though people talk about that era like it was awful. It really wasn't that bad, as you could compete with Red Death, Hawkmoon, Last Word, and even some other pulse rifles. But was it better than Dark Below? The story in this was pretty good too. Was it better than Black Armory? I'm gonna put it at A tier. Trials of Osiris helped carry this. The whole lighthouse thing was really cool. The loot from Trials was really good. And Trials carried through Destiny and was a major activity in Destiny until really Forsaken, which I don't know why they wouldn't bring it back, but it's okay. I'm going to put it at A tier. I think it's a pretty A tier DLC in my opinion. Pretty damn awesome. Rise of Iron, I'm going to throw it at A tier also. Definitely not as good as Taken King, but this did add the Plague Lands. It introduced Siva into the world. It gave us Outbreak Prime, which is the hardest exotic quest in the history of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. Had a pretty damn cool raid. I do like Wrath of the Machine quite a lot. Siege Engine, very unique encounter. Axis, very unique encounter. I mean, all the encounters are super. Raids are always really good. The raids are always really good. This Warmind raid is probably my least favorite, but I'm going to put Rise of Iron at A tier. It wasn't quite the game changer that Taken King was, and it didn't really quite have the content load that Taken King had, but it introduced us more to Lord Saladin and added a social space. It added a bunch of cool bounties. It added some cool strike-specific loot and finished the rehashing of all the old Destiny 1 strikes, which was pretty damn awesome to see, like Sepix Prime in Siva mode, stuff like that. I really like this DLC. It's definitely not game-changing like Taken King, that's why it's not S tier, but good raid, some pretty awesome loot from the raid too. All the loot was pretty damn cool, especially the armor sets. The armor sets for this raid are probably one of my favorite, or might be my just favorite armor sets for any raid in Destiny history. Absolutely awesome DLC. The only thing holding it back is kind of the lack of content. It also added kind of the cool artifact system, which is no longer in Destiny, but it could still be I like the artifact system. It was pretty cool. It had some cool, like you could take over enemies' minds with an artifact, which is pretty cool. Not very good, because what are you going to do when you take over a knight's mind? They're pretty stupid AI when you took it over, but you had some cool new abilities like that. That just pushed this DLC to A tier in my opinion. Curse of Osiris. This is trash. This is the worst DLC that Destiny has ever had. This DLC added Mercury. It added Heroic Adventures. It added the Infinite Forest. It added the raid, which is slipping my mind. I can't remember the name of this raid. The raid was actually really good. Argos is a really good boss fight. Well, until you get to Argos, I would argue that the raid is pretty trash. But once you get to the end of the raid, the last two encounters are awesome. Probably some of the best encounters in Destiny history. I absolutely love the Argos encounter and the encounter before that where you have to cook the Vex craniums and break the shell and then use it to DPS Argos and all this fun stuff. Absolutely love it. That is an awesome encounter. Unfortunately, it didn't really add anything else. It added the Weapon Forge, which was cool for some time, but it didn't really hold up in endgame. Added Heroic Adventures in the Infinite Forest. It's okay. The Infinite Forest was really wasted. It could have been a cool kind of dungeon crawler roguelike sort of thing where you try to make it as far as you can and you get certain loot based on that. Totally randomized, but it's just not random enough, and it's kind of just like another wave defense thing. There's not really activities such as like defusing mines they could have done. They could have done some cool stuff where you had to, I don't know, destroy certain artifacts. I don't know. They could have done a lot of different stuff with the Infinite Forest, and they just didn't. The cutscenes in this DLC, pretty cool. Strikes, pretty bad in my opinion. Don't really dig the strikes too much in this DLC. Overall, yeah, it's probably the worst DLC Destiny has ever added. It also had the unfortunate addition of being right after vanilla Year 1 Destiny, and this didn't really help the game at all. It didn't really need a DLC like this at the time. It needed a lot of system fixes and stuff like that. So this DLC, it's not really a welcome addition, as they were just adding some more content, which wasn't even that much content, and they didn't fix any of the broken systems that Destiny 1 had at the very beginning. So that's why it's pretty bad. The best thing to come from this DLC is what I'm saying is the last two encounters of the raid. So, Forsaken. I was debating between S tier and A tier, but I don't think it's on the same level as Rise of Iron. I also don't think it's on the same level as Taken King. If there was an A+ tier, I would put it there. I think it belongs somewhere in between A and S tier, but I don't think it's on Rise of Iron level. I think it's definitely closer to the Taken King level, so I am going to put it on S tier with Taken King. Yeah, like I said, if there's an A+, I don't think it's quite at the level of Taken King. It did totally change how Destiny 2 systems work. It added back random rolls. It added an amazing raid with also some awesome encounters like Riven. Riven is also giant creature, which I like for the final boss battle. It feels really cool to take down a giant monster. And raid encounters were really good for this. They were pretty clever. The raid was extremely hard at first for many people, including myself, but it's a pretty damn good raid. So it's up here. It added did it add strikes? Yeah, it added strikes. Because it's a big DLC, which is pretty awesome. It also added a ton of new loot, not as much as Taken King probably, and that would definitely move it down to the A+ tier, but it's a good story. It's not like an end of the world kind of thing. Like, all these are end of the world like kind of things. All these big DLCs are. But starting with Forsaken, these are not end of the world situations, which I kind of like. I kind of like that we were avenging Cade rather than like fucking saving the world for the 18th time. Really cool. Really cool to see Prince Aldron, stuff like that. Awesome loot. PvP, it changed PvP for the better for a while. They just need to pump out PvP changes faster in Forsaken, and then it's really awesome. Of course, we got a ton of new exotics with this, like Two-Tailed Fox, Shards of Galanor, a bunch of good exotics, Ace of Spades, of course. So this is my tier list, guys. I would put this like right there if I could, but overall, this is going to be my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Forsaken's an A+ tier. We're just gonna hold it there. It's definitely not as good as Taken King, but it's definitely not on the Rise of Iron level, which I do believe belongs at A tier. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please subscribe for more tier list and Destiny 2 content. I'm going to be streaming and uploading some Dauntless, so I hope you guys enjoy that game. But I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been DidgerX. Peace.
I'm open to mine, so we all need some time just to settle down. Won't you come around, cause I never can leave it alone. Talking about somebody rolling, boulevard dining, making it count for efforts I can't explain. Balling and feeling we drowning, never been humbled by playing the fighter.